What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are looking at a less random magic card, although recently we've been doing some pretty specific ones, so I guess we're going to continue that trend. This one actually is a special shout out to M.A.C. I don't know exactly if I'm pronouncing, if I need to pronounce it out, or if it just should just be Mac. So Mac, thank you so much for the kind words on YouTube. I really appreciate it, my friend. We are just getting this channel off the ground and every little bit helps. So thank you for feeding the algorithm. And on request, we have Spreading Rot from Ixalan. So this is a sorcery. It is a common. Destroy target land, its controller loses 2 life. That is a really fun effect because, well, it's not fun for your opponents. However, this particular one costs 5. So it's one of those situations. It costs 4 and a black. So in a mod, so it's okay. First off, it's splashable. You only need 1 black mana to cast it, so it can fit into a lot of different situations, and it also works really, really well in. I would imagine in limited, it would be an awesome tempo play on your opponent because, well, I suppose actually by the time you get to 5 lands in limited, there's a really good chance that you're going to be playing whatever's in your hand. But if they have a nice, 5 or 6 drop, if they're like building up to a Carnage Tyrant or something like that, because we are dealing with Ixalan, all of a sudden this has an opportunity to just shut that down or at least stutter that advancement pretty hard. Also, it's really great if your opponent has only 1 land of a particular color. So if it's a 3 color kind of situation, and they're trying to splash for something, this can just completely shut that down, especially in the early game. And again, in limited, well, early game, it's 5 drop on its own. So I gotta say that works. I do appreciate the general design philosophy around land destruction. Nowadays, land destruction costs at least 4. Like it has to. Like there are no cards that I can think of that can destroy a land on turn. Well, or that can destroy a land that cost 3. I was about to say on turn 3, but with things like Arboreal Grazer, turn 3 is the new turn 5, so that's not really a good example. Yeah. Anyway, so with Spreading Rot, the fact that it costs 5, you really need to commit to it. So I wouldn't really run this unless it was in a situation where it's in limited. Maybe I don't have a lot of good removal, and if I know there is a particularly pesky land out there, so if there is a rare land that could really mess up my deck strategy. Now, I don't know Ixalan super well, although actually now that I think about it, Ixalan had the flip lands. Ixalan had those lands like Dowsing Dagger that would turn into, I think it was Lost Veil, and I believe the Journey to Eternity was an Ixalan as well. That turned into Atzel, the Cave of Eternity, which I mentioned on a previous episode. So all of a sudden, you do have. Oh, not to mention, there's also the what was it? I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of it, but the enchantment that would end up flipping into a legendary land too. Never mind. Okay, so in a normal, like in most sets, I would look at Spreading Rot and just be like, it's just too expensive. It's just not very good. However, Ixalan had a lot of really powerful lands that could do incredible things, and your opponent had to jump through some hoops to get them online. Escanta, Journey to Escanta. That was the one. Man, I was rifling through the index. I remember, like, you were outraged at this card a while back on Arena. What was it? It's like, I had Journey to Escanta. No, Search for Escanta. Search for Escanta, and it became Escanta. That card was insane. Like the amount of value that people could get off of that was absolutely bonkers. And um, and so those enchantments turning into legendary lands, like it's almost like a planeswalker alting in kind of their own way. Like when those things transformed, the effects that their controller would get were just awesome. Some of the stuff that they were capable of doing is just bonkers. And so the idea with Spreading Rot, being able to knock those out, and in all likelihood, they're probably not going to be online until turn 5 anyway. And so if somebody finally gets their Search for Azcanta flipped over, you can just boom, destroy it right away. I mean, in Ixalan Limited, well, and the other thing about that is, like, a lot of those flip lands, the cards that flip into lands are the rares. Like those are the big bombs that people are building around. And so to be able to knock those out right when they go online, that's actually pretty fantastic. So I can appreciate that. There's definitely something to be said for it. Only thing, I wish it was an instant. The fact that it's a sorcery, mild bummer. But at the same time, I can't really blame them. Because that at instant speed, actually, you could do things where if they were waiting to play spells until their post-combat main phase, you could blow up their lands during combat to prevent them from getting access to that mana in the turn, which would be a real jerk move. Um, yeah, but at the same time, it would be a clever way to leverage it if it was an instant. But Wizards in their wisdom, anyway, Wizards decided that wasn't the case here, and that makes sense. If you had access to that, I would put this as probably an uncommon. Like if this was the exact same card except it was an instant, I'd say this should be an uncommon at that point. Um, and and that's the situation where like in limited, it could be really good because of the limited it's in, which is great. Like that means that it's designed well, frankly, because Wizards really focuses on the limited game when they're creating the sets. Cool. That means that they hit the nail on the head with this one. Um, and the context is so important because if this was in any other set, like if this was in Ikoria, I would look at that and go, "What is this? Why is this here? Like this is trash. You should never select this. Like you're like you should never pick this." But in Ixalan, it becomes a conditional removal spell that has an opportunity to really eliminate a bomb. Now, it is situational. I would love if this had cycling, but alas, it does not have cycling. Or any other way to really get value out of it um, aside from I guess that's the two life loss does mean that that it's not uncommon for a game of limited to come down to two life. It's not uncommon. So to be it's one of those things if you top deck this and your opponent isn't running any particularly special lands, just being able to blow up one of their forests or whatever and just killing them, well, hitting them for the two, um, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that is a viable strategy, or that is a situation you may find yourself in. It's not really a strategy. That's just a circumstance. Yes, and circumstances are not strategies. Fun fact: you learn something new every day around here. Let me tell you. I'm tired. We're getting wacky. Anyway, so this is spreading rot from Ixalan. So Mac, thank you for pointing me in this direction. This is actually deeper than I expected to go on this, because when I first looked at it, it was kind of like, okay. I was like, there's got to be something here. What is it about this card that makes it special? And realizing the limited that it was a part of is really clutch. Like the context really makes this card sing, and that's cool. I can respect that. Also, we do have some flavor text because the rule text itself only takes up 2 lines, doesn't even take up 2 whole lines. So what is the flavor text? What is this foul presence that defies the sun's cleansing rays? And that is attributed to Itzama the Crested. All right. I mean, foul presence that defies the sun's cleansing rays. That sounds like spreading rot. That sounds like corruption. And the other thing that I find really striking about the artwork for this particular image or for this particular card, the picture is of clearly like a lush jungle, except in the very center are a lot of stalks, what appear to be trees or what were trees, like withered down and blackened. And that alone, like if I were to just that alone, okay, it's spreading rot, it fits. But the thing that really makes this image sinister at just off to the right in the image, there is a what appears to be a puff of smoke rising up out of these withered trees. Like if I were to see the image with no context, especially at like magic card size, I would have assumed that this was the aftermath of a fire. However, again, context is key. Looking at the name, spreading rot, and then looking at the trees themselves, you can see they're withered and pulled down and blackened, but they don't appear to be burned. They're not ashen. And then you can see, so that little cloud of smoke, what is that? It's not smoke. If it's rot, then what we're probably dealing with is mold spores. And anyone who has ever had moisture issues in their basement can tell you that is terrifying. Like the amount of mold that must be growing out of this rotting portion of the jungle is really alarming. And the fact that it's rising into the air. So where's it going next? That's intriguing. I like that. Um, yeah, and the name spreading rot. So it's clearly like the artwork is depicting that, or the moment right before the wind catches it and carries it off to wherever it is going to set up its next its next home. That's like that's surprisingly sinister. The more I think about it, the more kind of that kind of gives me the willies. And I can appreciate that. Like that's really well done. The one thing about the name, although actually, so mechanically, the one thing that I had issues with here is that it doesn't. There's no kind of chain effect. Like it doesn't destroy their land and they could destroy one of yours, or, um, there's nothing where you could like pay extra and have it destroy multiple lands, anything like that. Which is for the best, because that kind of an effect would be really upsetting and just really difficult to balance in a way that would be playable. So I'm glad they didn't go with that aspect of spreading, but the fact that it destroys the land and then also leeches your opponent's life away, that is a way in which the rot is spreading from their mana sources that they were drawing power from. The rot is actually spreading from their lands into the planeswalkers themselves. That's freaking cool. I like that a lot. That is an interesting twist on this that isn't readily apparent right when you first look at it. Because I assume, okay, the rot is in the jungle, it's spreading throughout the jungle, but it's like, no, if a mage wants to call upon this part of the world in order to draw power, it will hurt them. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Like, that's a really impressive and very subtle use of the mechanics of the game along with the flavor of the card. I think that's lovely. I get a really big kick out of that. So yeah, this one, much like the Keldon Marauders that we recently touched on, when I first looked at this, I thought, there might be a place for it, I guess. But the more I look at it, the more I like it. So yeah, Mac, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. And again, thank you for the likes and the comments. Now, if you are out there listening to this either on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube, and you would like to request a card, I'm always open. Please don't hesitate to shoot me a message over on Twitter at Hawks42, or stop on over by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/hamhawks42. I also keep an eye on the YouTube comments, so that is a good place to post something, and I will find it. I can't monitor every single podcast catcher out there, so if you do want to leave a review, leave a comment, subscribe, tell your friends. I would greatly appreciate it because all of that matters. And I do appreciate all of that. If you do leave a review and a comment on your podcast podcatcher of choice, I can't guarantee I'm going to see it, but YouTube, Twitch, even Discord, which there's a link in the show notes if you want to have a conversation with me that lasts a little bit longer. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out. You're the best, and I will catch you next time.